All right, so earlier this week we talked about Frank Stella and took a look at sort of his creative inspiration, how he worked, and so forth. And on the Make Day today, we are going to be looking at two specific styles that Frank Stella worked in that were very different from each other. We're going to actually be making two works of art today. You don't have to do both; just choose one and turn one in is all you need to do. But we're going to be looking at how to create work in sort of both of the styles that we're going to look at of his today. The first style is when Stella was working with a lot of parallel lines, working in symmetry. He liked to have things very symmetrical. He made very bold use of primary, secondary colors. And so we see these as sort of very simplistic in their design and their execution. And so as we kind of look at this particular period in Stella's work, we're looking to see how he evolved sort of with that use of parallel lines, with that use of color, and with that use of a geometric shape. And as we sort of kind of look as he progresses, we see still that use of the symmetry. Now we have sort of more of an asymmetrical thing kind of going on, but still very simplistic use of shape. Those are very simple geometric shapes. And the color you can see is now beginning to get a little more outside that primary and secondary box, if you will. We see this sort of juxtaposition he has between the color elements versus black and white, still making use of that very symmetrical design and focusing on parallel lines. And so understanding how Stella used line is going to be paramount in how you develop your work of art that reflects one of these styles that Stella worked in. This is a work of art that has obviously six pieces that work together to create one unified work of art. Um, the simplistic, again, use of color, primary and secondary colors, geometric shape, even the spacing is very precise, very concise, if you will. And so this is sort of that next step for him is breaking those into the pieces and we sort of a de-evolution of that style as he's sort of breaking things apart both literally and figuratively. And so then we see this second sort of style that Stella works in, where he's using this very bold use of line. He's combining organic and geometric shapes together. He's making a lot of use of pattern. And most importantly, we see the way he uses shape goes from that very symmetrical, rigid type of shape and that geometric use of shape to a sort of a collage style where things aren't nearly as organized. Things take on sort of this very interesting life of their own. And the works become much more complicated. This again is another look at one of these styles where he's using that collage sort of aspect. So as you approach this assignment, there's a video at the end of the module lesson that is very short, about 2.5 minutes, that shows you how you can create this type of collage style work of art. And we're going to do sort of a larger one in that similar vein. But obviously, you can see how you could make lots of different patterns and textures on it, and then cut those out and collage those together to create a very similar style. But let's also not forget that there is some rhyme and reason to this. We still see very planned and considerate use of shape here as he's creating pattern with these green and blue shapes. We see the transition of color go from this bright green to the blue in the background, and then we see that repeated in areas throughout the work. And so it's just not a hodgepodge. It's very well thought out and planned, but it has a much different energy than the works where he was working more symmetric and more rigidly. This is a further evolution of that idea of the collage where now things are not even in on a geometric space to begin with. His collage is now this sort of oval diamond, if you will, or rounded diamond, I should say. And it's, though, again, put inside to juxtapose that sort of um, almost geometric style shape, and but with that rigid geometric form in the background, or geometric shape in the background. And last but not least, this is kind of the pinnacle of that evolution, sort of where it ends up now. He's completely released from that geometric shape that's in the background that kind of ties things together, and we still see or the limited use of geometric shape here, creating this cool pattern with the pink and the green. But the emphasis, it becomes this focal point of this very unique and wild sort of or geometric shapes, and he's using those complementary colors, those blues against the oranges, the reds and the greens against each other, to kind of create um, that um, that opposition that the two present each other. The Having those complementary colors provides that excitement in the eyes. We talked before about how our eyes respond to complementary colors because we're enacting all of those color sensors that we have in our eyes. So this is our Frank Stella look at his work, and so you're going to choose which one of these you want to do, and if you are watching from home, you can fast forward through. If you are here with me on Make Day, um, you know, watch both maybe before you start and begin yours. But hopefully, you've got an idea of what it is you want to do, and you're ready to kind of to get going on it. All right, thanks, guys. We'll get started here in just a second. All right, today we're going to be doing our first Frank Stella um, work of art, or in his vein, I should say, using Sketchpad 5.0. So I'm just going to type Sketchpad into my Google. Now, if you want to use Chrome Canvas, you're more than welcome to. I like using Sketchpad for this only because it's got a simple, easy tool I can show you to use that makes working in this particular style of Frank Stella a little easy. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be making a piece of art that reflects that style of Stella's, where he worked symmetrically using parallel lines and mostly primary, secondary, and a few tertiary colors. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create shapes. And because I'm going to try to keep it in the vein of what he did, I'm going to start with a square. I want my fill to be a single color because he worked in real basic simple colors. And I'm going to start with a big red square. And so I'm going to start making my square right here. All right. And so that's going to be the basis of my work of art that's going to be in the style of Frank Stella. Now, what I did was I used the square tool, and I started from the center of where I wanted that square to be, and I kind of pulled out until I got the size I liked. And if you notice, I could move my pen around. Sorry, I could move my pen around to turn that in different directions. All right. I'm going to add another one, and I'm just going to build these in layers, one after the other. And so I'm going to choose this time to go with a complementary colors, because that's from red, which is green, because that's another way that Stella worked. And I don't have to get it perfect the first time here. I'm going to kind of get it where I want it. And then I'm going to select this select tool. That top left looks like the little arrow. And then I can move that and put it in place exactly where I want it. All right, I like it right there. All right, so then I'm going to go back over here again to my square tool, and this time I'm going to select another color. And again, I want to stay sort of in that primary, secondary range, at least at the beginning here as I start working on this. And so I want to go with something that's both uh, going to stand out against that green, and but also set me up for another complementary pairing. And so I'm going to go with another warm color, because green being a cool color, and I'm going to choose orange. And again, I'm going to start from the center and kind of go out. And when I get it about the size I want, that's good. I'm going to again select that select tool, move it to where I want, and let it go in place. Again, I'm going to come back and select my square tool. I'm going to select another color. Now again, I want to go with those complementary pairings. So the complementary color of orange is blue. And so I like that blue. I'm going to pull this right here. That's about the size I like. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but it's not square. When I select it, I have this up in the top left. I can get it, and when it says 90 degrees, I know that's exactly where I want it. And now I'm going to move it into place, and there we go. Again, I go back to my square. This time I'm going to choose the third pairing of our complementary colors. We've got red and green, blue and orange, and now purple and yellow. So the yellow is the next warm color. I'm going to start in the center, work my way out. All right, and then I'm going to come back to my select tool, put it in place exactly where I want it, and come back and finally select my purple. That will be the center. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Don't want to do that. So I was still on edit. I don't know if you noticed that. I didn't hit my square button like I should have first. All right. Now let's go select that purple. All right. Again, starting from the center, drawing it to the and so I'm going to make this one a little smaller than the others because as it gets to the center, I kind of like the idea of changing that space a little bit that's around the edge. I'm going to choose my select tool again so I can move it into position, put it where I want it. I believe that's about right. All right, and I'm going to do one more square for emphasis. And I started with red. I'm going to finish with red. So I'm going to choose my square. I'm going to choose that. And this time I'm going to go with a different red. It's a little darker, a little bolder. And I'm going to make it about that big. Again, select my select tool and put that where I want it. Now I've got a basis for um, a my Stella project that I'm pretty happy with. And so, you didn't have to use square. You could have used circles and made a symmetrically circle design that looks very similar to what we're doing here. And but we just chose to use that um, the square in this case. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my toolbar on the left there where I can choose what kind of brush I want to use or pencil, and I want to choose the line tool. And the line tool works like this. I'm gonna go put it in the top right corner, and now I've got a move point. I'm going to put it in position, and then I'm going to come in here and select where I want it to draw to. There we go. All right. Now I've got a diagonal line that goes from left to right. Let me select that. All right. And let me move my placement of it just a little bit. Oh, I selected the wrong thing. All right, let's undo that. All right, let's go back to my select tool and see if I can select my line. I think that's actually good. I kind of like that. All right, close enough. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to put a line that goes from up here down to the bottom right. And now I'm ready to kind of do something different with my interior and with these spaces. Now what I've done by putting those lines in that crisscross is now I've divided all these into little areas of their own that I can now come in and choose my bucket fill. And I'm going to choose a single color. And I now want to kind of play with the colors and change them up a little bit. And so I don't have just green next to green and, associated green in that area, purple to purple and so forth. So I'm going to try to look at how I can create some of that same interest and focal point that and sort of those correlations between colors that Frank Stella did. And I'm going to do so by choosing colors that are not exactly like the colors that we started with. So that we're instead of having a regular purple, normal purple, I'm going to put in a lavender, and I'm going to choose to, whoops, let's undo that. Oh, undo that. Try this again. Single color fill on the pixel fill. Let's choose a better color again. All right, let's try this one last time. Nope. What am I doing there? Why is that not? All right, there we go. Took me 2 or 3 tries. So you should have on pixel fill, so it's not going all the way around and doing that entire shape. That's what the vector tool will do for you. The pixel tool will keep it confined to those areas. And so you can see, I didn't want to change the green all around. I just wanted that one little section. And you can already see how that color interest has changed. And so I'm going to play with the opposite side. I'm going to put a little of that purple over here on the opposite side. And I'm going to choose to put a little bit right here. All right. Now I'm going to come back in and choose another color. And this time I'm going to go with something, a little like a pale orange. Let's go with this sort of fleshy orange. It's kind of, oh, and because I was already selected that, I'm going to want to change each time, come back and select that again. And it just resets that tool, makes it a little easier to keep from having to select again. Oops. And change that back. There we go. All right. Let's choose. I think I'm going to go with actually this kind of interesting eggshell blue. And I want to sort of change a little bit about where that blue is going to be seen. And there's a something we call the rule of threes. Oops. In art, where if you build things in threes very often, it kind of creates that interest and maintains it. And so that's what I'm kind of doing, kind of repeating some of these in threes a little bit. Just kind of keeping that rule in mind. Let me switch out there. I'm going to now choose something cool again because I want to affect this area here. And I kind of like that army green. Just kind of taking a look and see how that plays with the other colors. I think I'm going to put a little bit of it here. And I think I'm now going to start playing with that center square and try to create some interest flow in there a little differently. So again, I'm going to look at how I'm going to use this red and the purple in the center and change those a little bit. I'm going to go with a real weird, let's go with a, oh, I don't like that at all. Let's go with a dark orange here. And let's put a dark orange here and a dark orange here. Now I kind of like what I've got going on here, but I've got too much of that warm all convoluted there, all put together. I want to repeat that orange over here. But I'm going to bring some more of that cool, and this time I'm going to come with a complicated blue. Whoops. Again, I keep forgetting to switch out. Okay, let's get that complicated blue I like. And I'm going to put it there. Oh, I really like what I've got going on. So the last thing I want to do is the only thing I don't care for is this big accent of yellow that's kind of going around. It becomes the focal point, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but yellow is not my favorite color. And I don't really care for uh, sort of the bracketing it's creating and how it stands out too differently than everything else. So what I'm going to do is I want to find something that maintains that blue yellow contrast I've got going, but isn't using that same blue. So I'm going to go with something just a little different. Oh, wrong one. Again, let's do this again. Do it right here. I want to go with something like that, I think. I do like that. Now I want to repeat that orange somewhere. And I think because, um, boy, that's a toughie because I really like my composition I've got going on right now. I think I'm gonna let that orange be my sort of focal point. It stand out, stand alone as the single, and that orange, the yellow still maintains that area of focus because it's sort of that bright yellow that sticks out. But it's kind of muted there on the right and kind of gives that, helps provide that, or I'd allow that movement into that center square. All right. So that's my Frank Stella work. I hope yours is similarly awesome. I hope you enjoyed doing this one. Stick around, and in just a few minutes, we're going to start the second Frank Stella project. Okay, today we are going to be doing the Frank Stella Make Day Part 2. The first Frank Stella thing we did was looking at how we use Sketchpad to create a symmetrical design using parallel lines. Again, we're focusing on how Stella used line, shape, color, line, shape, color, and what's the other big one we're looking for? Pattern. And so, as we create this this piece, we're going to be sort of following along with that little video they have at the end of the module, and we're going to be sort of, again, going along with what they did. It's a little simplified, but again, one of the great things about doing stuff in the style of Frank Stella is it's fairly simple. And so I'm going to start by dividing this page into 4 sections using some wavy lines. I could have used zigzag lines if I liked. That would have also been in the style and vein of Frank Stella. And then the two opposite corners, we're going to create symmetrical designs, and then the other two, we're going to create designs using circles and half circles, semicircles, the protractor style of art that Stella was known for. Okay, so when we're looking at creating pattern and symmetrically here, it doesn't have to be precise. I'm not breaking out my ruler and that sort of thing. What I want to do though is I want to start by dividing the space with one of these wavy lines down the middle. That's going to be one particular color. Now again, your symmetrical design is not going to look like mine. Yours is going to be what yours is. I'm going to divide that space again with these zigzag lines that are going to overcross those curvy lines I made earlier. Now I've got these divided up. It's sort of almost like a tic-tac-toe, if you will. I've got 6, really 9 little sections because that small area in the middle is broken up into a couple little areas as well. And so inside of these, I want to create, again, some more symmetrical designs. I'll go with a circle and circle here. And because I'm working on symmetry, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Remember, symmetrical designs are going to have symmetry where the design is essentially the same on both sides. If we divided that design or that object in half, it would be essentially the same mirror image on both sides. And I'm going to go with simplified shape. I'm making star shapes here. Okay. And then in this final little center one, I'm going to put a little half moon, because the half moon is kind of cool. It's going to sort of add some kind of weird broken symmetry to that because it's different on one side than the other. And though it's centrally located, it'll help keep that overall symmetry that we're looking for. Now, in the two corners, the two areas in the corners, the other corners, I want to make little round circles. Well, I don't have my protractor. I can't find it. Cleaned up so much that I've lost everything. And so I'm going to show you how you can, if you don't have a protractor, don't worry, you don't need one. I'm going to show you how you can make a quick, easy protractor. If you've got a piece of cardboard, this is just a heavy cardboard stock. That's actually the cover off of a drawing pad, or I think it's actually a palette pad. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pen, and not my marker, but my pen. A ballpoint pen. Actually, use this one. Ballpoint pen, and I'm going to poke little holes in it. I'm going to poke little holes about every, I don't know, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, that sort of thing. All right, and I think that's probably enough. So I don't know if you can see, but I've got a little strip of paper with little holes in it. And I want one as close to the center, sort of, or the end of it, if you will, which is going to be the center of my, it's going to be the center of my circles as I create. So I've got one nearest to the end, and that's where I will start. I've got 2 pins now. I'm going to use one to identify the pivot point where this is going to spin. And when I put my other pin in, it's going to then create a circle. So I'm going to start down here. And I'm going to go with a relatively small circle. Whoop. Now this design doesn't have to be symmetrical, so I'm not worried about symmetry. Oh, my paper's shifting here. Okay. There's one. I'm going to do a concentric circle, another one a little bigger on the outside of it. And then I'm going to do another one even a little bigger than that. Okay, and then we'll do a closer one, kind of towards the outside. And I don't want to go back into that other side so much. All right, I'm going to do that there. I'm going to make another one here. And I don't know if you can see real well on the screen, but hopefully you'll see as my paper shifts around. I'm making nice little circles using the paper as a protractor. That noise you hear in the background is my dog, the little basset hound we got. Now I'm gonna let some of these overlap each other, so when they do, they create new spaces that I can create some cool colors and stuff going on. And there's a couple things I'm gonna do. One more. Actually, I'm gonna do a couple little half circle ones using this. And what I'm gonna do with this one? So I'm gonna divide it, sort of like Frank Stella did with his designs. And I'm going to divide it into 4ths there. I'm going to bring my other little homemade protractor in on this. That's close to the center. Alright. Alright. Now I'm going to do the same thing up here in the top right. I'm going to make some circles. Okay. And I know for time, I'm going to have to speed it up just a little bit here because I know combined with doing 2 lessons in one day, or 2 different drawing things in one day, is more time consuming than you all need to be involved in. So hopefully you've chosen one, by the way. I say this late into the video. You've chosen one of these designs. I think I mentioned it earlier. But you've chosen one of these designs to use and to do, and you're not doing both. So you're only doing one. Your time commitment should be much less. Okay. So I'll kind of hold this up here so you can see what I've got. I've got circles going on in 2 areas, and I've got my symmetrical design. There, it came into focus. There we go. And you can see my symmetrical designs and my circles, and I'm going to start adding color now. So I'm using 2 different materials, 2 different mediums, mixed media. If you've got crayons and color pencils, boom, you got mixed media. If you're doing this in Canvas or a sketchbook and you don't have paper and actual materials, do one using the pastel and one doing like using a pencil or something like that. But give yourself an opportunity to give a little bit of variety anyway. Okay, so we're going to go with watercolor first, and I'm using really inexpensive watercolors. These are great big, what we call cake watercolors, which means that they are dry, and then I've got to add water to them to bring them to life, if you will. And I'm just going to start going here and adding some color. Remember,
Frank Stella focused a lot with those, particularly in the when he was doing his symmetrical designs and so forth. He focused with on primary and secondary colors. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look for areas I can use blues and reds and yellows and greens and oranges and that sort of thing. So I'm going to find all my areas of blue first of all. And so because I'm going to remember that symmetry, I want to make all of this area the same, and the corresponding symmetrical side over there will also paint in that same style. Okay. And now this side, remember to keep in my symmetry. Remember, simplified shapes. I've got geometric shapes here, those circles, opposed to these sort of organic shapes that get created with these wavy lines. We're looking at those, how we use the shape, line, color, and then pattern. So you see the circles here sort of create pattern. The ones I've used in these symmetrical areas, the stars help create sort of that um, use of pattern. I'm using a wash brush here. It's a big brush with a lot of hair in it, and it comes to sort of a point so I can kind of stay a little bit in my lines. I'm not really too concerned about it. I don't want to get crazy with it because Frank Stella wasn't known for being sloppy. But I want to recognize that a lot of that edge is already being controlled by those very dark lines from that Sharpie I used to create this area. So I got a broad area that I can kind of get close to and approach. And if I go over a little bit, it's going to be okay because I'm going to come back on the other side with some color. So I just want to make sure I'm getting color everywhere and not leaving a bunch of white space. Um, if you have ever heard my speech about white space, you know I don't like white space in art. It shows where the artist got lazy and just decided, nothing goes there. Even if you put a real pale color there to represent that white, or you just use a white crayon and go back over it. Always apply some type of medium to every inch of your surface. Okay, I got my blue. I kind of like the use of blue. I think we talked about this a little bit in the last demonstration. The use of three. So I've got it sort of in this area, that's one. In this area, that's two. Sort of this area, that's three. And so I like that. I'm going to come back in now and start using its complement color. And if you will recall, that's ugly. So if you go to your complement color, make sure your brush is pretty clean. All right. All right. So I'm going to try to go in this orange now, and hopefully this won't be open. We'll get a nice bright orange going here. And now I'm going to look for all the places that I can utilize orange. And I kind of want that orange close to that blue because that's sort of the point. When you put those complementary colors next to each other, they create excitement. We've got those receptors in our eyes for red, yellow, and blue. And when we put a complementary color like orange next to blue, those complementary colors end up making use of all of our receptors. The blue ends up using the blue receptors, of course, and the orange requires the red and the yellow. So all of the receptors are working, but they're doing two very different things because there's absolutely no use for red and yellow as the blue's looking at blue. And similarly, the blue's got no use for red and yellow as it's looking at blue. And because of that, we got our eyes doing two very different things sort of at once. It creates what we kind of call visual vibration. It makes our eyes sort of see those two colors next to each other, kind of playing with each other and making a very uh, active sort of color combination there. And they bring our attention to it. A lot of sports teams use complementary colors. If you think about the LA Lakers. If we got any Lakers fans, they use that purple and yellow. Those are complementary colors. If you are a Broncos fan, I'm a big John Elway fan. I don't know if you all know who that is. But he was a great Broncos quarterback years ago. But they use blue and orange. Um, Very often, schools will you choose complementary colors for their school colors, just because again they create that excitement. If you go down the aisles at your grocery store, you'll probably see lots of combinations of complementary colors. Very often in food packaging, we'll see reds and greens being used together. That's real common. Blues again and oranges are always really popular. So now I've kind of got my blues and my oranges where I want them now. But I've only used orange in two places, so I want to find a third place for orange. This time I'm not going to necessarily pay attention to whether or focus on whether or not it's right next to the blue. So I'm going to put it actually over here. And I want orange here. And I kind of want to use it in some of these circles over here. And sort of like we did with the sketch pad design, I want to make sure I'm putting those colors, I'm positioning them in places that they're going to not just kind of counter each other, but also provide some of that eye movement and that focal point that we always want to see in our art. Okay, we'll go with this one. And I need to step up. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I realize this is going to be a 2-hour video if I don't hurry up. You only got time for that, dude. All right, and I'm going to go with this one up here. All right. So moving quickly. I'm next going to go to green. Now again, you guys are choosing your colors. Yours is not going to be the same as mine. But I'm going back and forth between warm colors and cool colors. This way I will just constantly visually remind myself, hey, this would be a good place for a cool color or a warm color. And so I'm specifically choosing to put this cool color in between those warm oranges. And I'm going to continue that green stripe up here. Again, I'm just trying to move quickly here. All right, a little green there. All right, where else do I want to use a little green? In this center circle, that'd be a great place for some green. All right. All right, now I'm kind of getting where I like what I've got going here, and I want to start thinking about the second part of this. If you all watch the little video that at the end, is that once we get our design done here, we do flip it over, we do a design on the back, and then we're going to put those two designs together and make a unique design by folding the back kind of over on the front. And we'll look at that in a minute. But I kind of want to plan where those are going to attach over here as I create. And let's see. I'm going to go with red next. Now I've used two cool colors. Now it's time for another warm color. All right. I really like this red. It's sort of a deep, dark blood red. Very nice. And I want to again put it where it kind of is next to some of those cool colors. going to use it in these stars as well. And again, I am moving as quickly as I can. You guys don't feel like you have to move this quickly. All right. And one of the things, I keep talking about, we're going to put cool next to warm and warm next to cool. But when we're using the warm next to warm and stuff, it also helps create movement because we don't sort of get that interruption of that contrast with a cool color. It just kind of creates this flow that our eyes can follow along with. So, you know, appreciate that there are a lot of advantages. Colors that are analogous and work together tend to flow together. When we talk about analogous colors, we're talking about colors in the same sort of color family, if you will. If you think about red and yellow make orange. If mom is red and daddy's the yellow, the baby is orange. You got family relationship. So when we think about excuse me, colors that are analogous, we're thinking about any three colors or so that are next to each other on that color wheel. So even like say purple, um, uh, purple, blue, and green. Those are analogous colors because they all share one common relative, that being blue. Blues and green, blues obviously in blue, and blues and purple. If we look at red, blue, and purple, we recognize there's a common relative there, and that's purple. Reds and purple, purples and purple, blues and purple. And so think about those sort of family relationships, and when you think about analogous colors, and analogous colors, like I said, they generally tend to flow well together. They look like they belong together. Um, all right. Good way to help create unity in your piece is to use analogous colors. All right. So now I've got red and blue, red and yellow. Excuse me, red and orange, blue and green. I need yellow and purple in here. So I'm going to go find my yellow, which is really ugly right now. Let me clean it off. That looks terrible. All right. So I got my yellow here, and that looks a little better. Yeah. So pigment is that take a yellow, pigment's the color in it, and the more pigment I've got, the brighter the color will be. And so I'm going to come in here and add a little yellows. And again, I'm letting a lot of my design sort of be taken care of, if you will, by those black lines I've got. I'm going to use a lot of yellow up here in this top left, or top right, excuse me. Okay, so I'm just about done with this side, and I'm going to do the back side super quick, and I'll show you what I mean with that. We're gonna do it a little differently than they suggest, just for the sake of time. Okay, so this just needs purple, and this bad boy is done. Excellent. All right, purple. I never find a purple I like. Oh, and again, did I mention if you go to complementary colors to wash your brush real good? Hope if I followed my advice sometimes. Okay. So let's see what kind of purple we can get out of this. Now, I have an option here that I'm not really using. Well, in fact, I might use it. Yeah, because I don't like that purple at all. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take some of my red and I'm going to mix it with some of my purple and my blue to make a purple. Let's see what that gives me. Ooh, I love that. That is a rich, dark, wonderful, oh, a delicious purple. Very nice. All right. So I'm going to put the purple in. All right. So now that I've just about got my purple in here, we're going to talk real quick about what happens next. So I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to create some wild line designs because we were focusing a lot on line. Right now it's been shape and color on this side. The back side, we're going to look at how he used line and creating these wild organic versus sort of geometric shapes with his line, but and then how he created zigzagging lines and combine those with curving lines and lots of straight lines, parallel lines. The master of line. All right, so I'm about to call this done. All right. So this is what I've got. Yours is going to look different. Yours will not look like this. So in the interest of time, I'm going to blot mine. And blotting simply means I'm going to take a piece of paper, paper towel, or you can use a regular towel, and I'm just simply going to blot, and that's going to pick up some of this extra um, pigment, particularly in that purple I just laid down. Any of these wet areas, I just want to kind of blot them dry, so I can very quickly flip this over. Oh, we got a little run there. Okay. All right. All right, I'm gonna flip this over. So this is my design so far. That's my first side, and as you can see, I've got all kinds of shapes. I'm trying to get the reflection up there. Shapes. It's divided into 4 sections. Lots of nice color. I'm gonna flip it over here, and now we're gonna talk about how he used line. So I'm gonna first grab me a nice. I'm gonna say black, but I think I'm gonna go with this blue. I think I'm gonna choose blue. Um, Actually, I'm gonna go with this black. I'll take that back. Hopefully this is juicy. All right. So Frank made use of lots of parallel lines. So I'm gonna start thinking about parallel lines, and then I'm gonna start thinking about those zigzag lines. And then I want to start thinking about how did he use pattern and for me that's going to be represented in these repeated circles. And maybe up here, I want to think about how he used these crazy overlapping sort of curvy lines that just sort of went everywhere. Kind of took over some of the drawings a little bit. I'm going to continue that over here a little bit. And I like those parallel lines. I'm going to bring some back over here as well. And so all I've done is create these wild, crazy areas of line that are intersected. They create little spaces. And in the interest of time, I'm going to fill most of these in with the same sorts of colors. But ideally, with more time, you want to be able to go through and sort of like we did before, select areas that you would make green and little spaces that you might do in greens or blues and reds and that sort of thing. Again, in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of take these in sort of broader swaths here, if you will. I'm going to put my greens in, and I'm going to do this area. And my brush is not completely clean, but I would like to get done. All right. I'm going to juice up that yellow because I really like that yellow. If I can get my brush clean. So, change your water more often than I do. All right. And really, now I'm going to start using that other medium that I talked about that I didn't ever really use. Now I've kind of got them, I'm putting some more broad areas of color here. And then I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring one last wash over, but I'm going to bring in markers. Markers is the other um, medium I intended to use today, or I intend to use. So I'm going to come back in with a red marker. And I'm actually using little zigzag lines as I fill in my red areas. And that's creating some, kind of cool textures as I go over the areas of yellow from that watercolor. It changes to these little oranges. And so I'm just kind of doing a little bit of what Frank Stella did. The one thing I hate about markers is it's hard to fill that white space. All right. Over here. All right, and I'm not going to do the entire back side. I'm going to go with some blue. I like this blue. So my Sharpie blue. So I'm filling in all these areas over here. And again, I said I was going to do this quicker than I am. All right. And let's go with a little blue up in here. All right. And I know it's weird. I like this kind of weird like blue. I'm going to put a little position here. This is what we call a Prussian or maybe a phthalo blue. Phthalo kind of bordering on cyan. That's a weird one. Strange color though, but I kind of like it. All right. And the last thing I'm going to do, because I'm pretty happy with what I've got going on here, is I'm going to bring in this green. Not the screen, that one's almost dry. Let's try this green. That's better. So I'm just bringing this in. I don't know if y'all can see anything from there, but it's a real bright green. And it just kind of adds another little pop here and there. Okay. So I'm going to take a wash brush, my wash brush, and I'm going to do a wash light blue over the whole thing. So I'm going to go back in here. It's really going to be a light purple because I've got a lot of that red in there. But I'm going to make it light by adding a lot of water to it. Oh, I like that. Okay. So I'm going to come up here and add that here. And I'm trying to let it interact with some of that green and that yellow to sort of make some more complicated greens. I'm taking over those colors that I laid down, but because I used a permanent marker, we don't have to worry about them activating again and coming back. I get to kind of see how they play with that blue. All right. All right, and I'm going to put just a little more here, and I'm going to call this done. And now I'm ready to move to the final and last stage. Okay. So now you should have something that looks like this big mess. No, I'm just kidding. So what? Oh, let's blot again. Let's just blot again. Make sure when we are doing this, we don't get running everywhere. All right, all blotted. Now we're gonna flip it back over. We're gonna go back to the other side, and well, I'll take that back. We're gonna stay on this side. We're gonna draw. I forgot to draw the lines. We're gonna draw some little lines, curvy lines that go from the outside in. Now they draw a whole bunch. I'm not gonna draw as many, and I'm gonna be more contemplative about where I draw mine, because these are gonna be the things, the areas that get folded back over and put to the other side. And so I want to kind of create this, and I'm only going to do three little areas. Okay. So what I want to do is now I've drawn these lines that go sort of from the center out on a curve. I'm going to cut these. Oh, a little run in. Let it blot a little bit. All right. All right. And I'm going to use zigzags, I think, more so when I cut these next ones. And I'm trying to think about what we're going to see when I flip these over, and what's going to be on the other side. And I want to make sure, because not all of this is going to be seen, right? You know, some of it's going to be still stuck over on this side and never really be seen. And so I want to be contemplative. I want to think and be considerate about what's it going to be? What colors are going to come over? I want to make sure you get a little of that red, grab a little of that green. You know, I don't want to waste these colors that I spent time invested in, if you will, and then not end up using. So I'm going to flip it over. And now we're going to bring those areas back over, and we're going to attach them to the inside of the piece, if you will. And so where's my glue? Handy dandy glue. And so this one's going to sort of come over towards here, and this one's going to sort of, go like this, and this one's going to sort of come like that. I think I want another one. I think I want one more. I think I'm going to ruin my rule of threes, and I'm going to do something a little different, maybe. Okay, so I know I want this one to go here. All right, hopefully you all taking better care of your glue and it's not all stopped up like mine always is. I'm not going to take my teeth to this. You should never take your teeth to anything. I said that because I was very tempted to take my teeth to that thing. All right. So I'm going to add my glue. Almost time to refill the glue. All right. I'm going to roll it over. Actually, I'm going to roll it over to there. Ooh, and I kind of like that because now it's going to go in the center sort of that green dot. That's awesome. I like that. Okay. So what's this one do? I think instead of adding some more, I'm just going to change the way this one functions and where it goes and how much of it's going to turn. And so now, awesome. I'm going to have this one come over into this space. All right. And this one we're going to rotate up into here. Okay. Let's do it like this. Oh, that's cool. All right. So I'm going to put that one sort of right in here. And so now this is what I've got so far. And I think I might play with it just a little more. I'll turn this around so you all can kind of see what I see. This is my Frank Stella so far. All right. So hopefully you got something that you like. And again, I've got all four corners of mine still intact. I guarantee you I'm going to mess that up and do something different with it already in the last little bit. But I'm going to stop here for right now. Take a picture of your rolls. Let's see it in the gallery. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.